So the guys are ready.
Gun is going hot.
They have their .45 caliber gun with its large, slow-moving slug, perfect for this experiment, aimed by a laser at the tip of the match.
Firing in 3.
Surely this won't take long.
1.
Maybe it will.
Not lit, not even gone. Apparently it's too low.
Despite Adam's pleasure at the quality of the high-speed shot,
That is so pretty. It's so crisp, you can see the reflection of the match head in the bullet.
even with laser-guided precision, they completely missed. So they're reverting to a more utilitarian method of marking the bullet's trajectory.
Let's do it.
Cardboard and trial and error.
3, 2, 1.
Plenty of error.
That's crazy high. Well, you shot the head right off.
And plenty of trial.
Oh, it missed it. So close, but it's not touching it. Well, we're a few shots in and we have not gotten a match to light yet, but we're in the thick of it. So close. We knocked most of the red off the match without destroying it, so we're really close. We're trying to get this grazing action without destroying the match head, which we've already done.
Too high. We want to just graze the very tip of it.
I don't know, to get one to light may take another few shots, may take another few hours. What do you think?
I don't see no fire.
No lit match, but a quick look at the high speed confirms they are on target.
Oh, perfect. It's just knocking off a little bit of the white there.
Just barely touched it.
That's what's required.
Could that be myth busted? The bullet grazed the match head, but it didn't kickstart the chain of events that end in a lit match. And to find out exactly what happens when you light a match, here's Jamie.
This is how matches work. In the head of the match, you've got a fuel, which is a sulfur-based product. You've got an oxidizer, which is usually potassium chlorate. And you've got glass powder. It's all held together in a binder on the head of the match. The striker has glass powder, but it also has a small amount of red phosphorus. And when you strike the match on the striker, that glass-on-glass friction generates enough heat to convert the red phosphorus into white phosphorus, which happens to burst into flames when it's exposed to air. Now, in a strike-anywhere match like this one, all those same ingredients are on the head of the match. And so you can strike it on any abrasive surface, the same reaction occurs, generates heat, generates white phosphorus, you've got a lit match.
And back on the range, despite feeling like they've got a busted myth on their hands, the guys lock and load for one last shot.
Firing in 3, 2, 1.
Ah, nice! Punch in.
You asked for it, and we made it happen.
Well, that's fully burnt. We did it.
But keep in mind that it took us 9 tries to make this happen. We had precision equipment, and the accuracy required was down to, a 1,000th of an inch or so.
That's great. That is so cool. Well, I was wrong again. This was fully able to light this when they were only in contact for a 12,000th of a second. It's mighty short, but it's mighty confirmed.
All right, quick hit myths from the fan site. What do we have?
Well, the first one comes from the movie Shrek.
Can doggies talk?
No, that's confirmed.
Can we hear the real one?
Okay, well, in the movie, Shrek uses his own earwax to make a candle.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
I'm interested. Please go on.
Okay, well, first we need to find out if earwax is flammable, and finally we need to collect lots and lots of it.
I always wondered what was in my ears.
You might want to get this checked out.
It's a classic scene from the green screen. Shrek pulls enough wax from his ears to form a fully functional, flammable candle.
Here you have a movie myth for us.
I do, Old Bean. It seems that within the logic of an action movie, any building can be escaped from by handily jumping into a dumpster parked next to it. Hop out, dust yourself off, and walk away unharmed.
Well, that sounds like rubbish.
It's an action movie cliche. After a roof runaround with nowhere else to go, a dive into a dumpster equals a guaranteed getaway. But can you really get up and go every time after a trash landing?
So how's this going to go down?
Well, I figured that any line of investigation we pursue is ultimately, hopefully, going to end with one of us leaping into a dumpster. So first things first, I think we need to be trained how to fall safely. I think we need to call one of the stuntmen we know to teach us.
Well, I guess it's time to jump right in, huh?
All right.
Yep, this myth can only end one way, with an actual dumpster dive. And to make sure our MythBusters will live to bust another day, it's off to Treasure Island for Stunt Falling 101.
So in our ongoing training to be action movie heroes, we are about to learn how to take a high fall safely. And this is the building we're going to start with.
This is the airbag that's going to break our fall.
And this
Is the guy that's going to train us.
That's Randy Lamb, stunt coordinator and fall guy.
it's cool in here.
As Jamie said, they're not starting on the dumpsters just yet. First, there's this.
How does this airbag work, you ask? Well, it's called a two-stage airbag, and it works thusly. The first stage, this top part, slows you down by popping, by opening through this very portal that I climbed out of. The second stage, that bottom layer, stops you. It does not deflate.
And that's key, because the name of this game is deceleration. Like they say, it's not the fall that kills you, it's the sudden stop. A jump from a height onto a hard surface will bring you to a stop very quickly. And it's this sudden impact that is potentially fatal. But landing on a soft surface maximizes deceleration, dissipating impact over a longer time, reducing the risk of injury.
Randy, falling 101, what do we have to know?
When you jump, you want to make sure that you land flat on your back and use up as much volume as possible.
Awesome. Can we get started?
Sure. Who wants to go
Me.
first?
I want to go first. Is that okay if I go first? Can I go first? Is that cool?
All right, follow me.
Unsurprisingly, Adam is falling over himself to get started.
Less is more. Yeah, it's a lot higher now, isn't it?
All right, here we go.
But at a height of 13 feet, getting the technique right is vital.
Place your left foot right here.
All right.
Now, you're going to take one giant step out and lay back just like you were laying into a recliner.
I start like this and then just kick one leg.
Just gently step right on out.
Okay.
And then pick your feet up. I want you to keep your chin down when you're ready.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wow. That's cool.
And if at first you succeed, why not go again, and again, and again?
It looked like you did it perfectly.
With that out of his system,
That was awesome.
Don't look now, but there's a Heineman on the roof of that building, and I think he's gonna jump.
Jamie, don't jump. You have so much to live for.
Remember, Jamie, spirit fingers.
So, you know, it's a little bit of a jolt, but it works.
Much better. Excellent.
That beret jumping with you action was really awesome.
Jamie and his beret soon have the fall down too, which means
I think you guys have both got this height down.
Awesome, because I want to go higher. Can we go higher?
Let's go.
yep, it's as easy as moving the airbag to a new location. Or is it?
Well, we're about to bump it up a notch, and make no mistake, when you're looking down at that bag, there's a pretty big difference between 13 feet and 20 feet. The stakes just went up, and so did my adrenaline level. Big night last night?
No, this is a brain teaser. What can you do with these items?
You mean besides cure a hangover?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll bite. What can you do?
you can break out of jail.
No.
Yeah, the myth is that an industrious inmate lined the inside of his cell wall with sheet plastic, and he had collected something like 10 years worth of antacid tablets, which he exposed to water, creating enough CO2 to pressurize the cell and break the cell walls, and he escaped.
I love it.
What's not to love? For instant freedom, just add water. But can the massive amount of CO2 produced from a pile of bubbling tablets really budge bricks and mortar? We'll need to capture every ounce of energy from a giant chemical belch.
Well, I reckon the best place to start is to figure out what kind of pressures we can get out of antacid tablets here in the shop.
I think you're right. Maybe we should start out in small scale and see what we're dealing with the pressures, the physics, the chemistry, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need all of that information before we go full scale.
Before anyone breaks out the beakers, they'll need to start building a full-scale cell, which should be as tough as its tenant.
While normally people go to great lengths to avoid a prison cell, we've actually had to go to great lengths to get up close and cozy with one. These pallets of cinder blocks that I'm sitting on will in fact our prison walls make, and that yellow line behind me describes the extent of our test cell.
Construction begins inside Building 258 at the Naval Shipyard. This way they can't be stalled by bad weather. You can tell they're serious by the forest of rebar they use to anchor the jail to the floor.
If you know us, you know we like to build everything ourselves, and we've built buildings before on the show, but in this case, since this story is all about the structural integrity of the building, we figured that we need some professional help, so that's why we've got these guys doing this. This building's going to be tough.
In fact, it's far and away the sturdiest shack we've ever built. It's a cozy 10 feet long by 7 feet wide by 6.5 feet high, maximum security cell.
He's got a lot better technique than I do.
That's pretty clear. They're all like throwing it and stuff. I'm kind of impressed.
It is pretty to watch. And hey, these guys are fast.
This professional help thing is pretty good. This morning we had a yellow rectangle on the floor. This afternoon, most of a prison cell.
But the day's only half done for Adam and Jamie. It's back to M5 to find out how much potentially explosive pressure they can hope to wrangle from the humble antacid tablet. Jamie starts with a volumetric test to see how much gas is produced by measuring the water it displaces.
So you release the antacid into here, it expands. That expansion of gas pushes water out of this one into here, and whatever volume we get in here is how much gas was produced by the antacid.
Ain't it great?
I love it. Let's do it.
There's more than enough water to make this work. Jamie pulls the quick-release magnet, and they're off and bubbling.
Look at that. It works.
And they've got a result in seconds.
So it looks like one pill produces about 75 milliliters of gas.
Yeah, about 80.
Well, now my question would be, do 2 pills displace 160 milliliters? Does it scale perfectly linearly?
Double the gas from double the pills would make sense, but science is rarely so simple.
Wow.
The volume of gas produced scoots past the 160 mark and continues to climb.
This one's looking like 275.
To see if the trend continues, the next logical step is to try 4 pills. Double the 2-pill result would be 550 mils of displaced water. And before long, Jamie's wishing he'd brought a bigger beaker.
It's actually going more than
double. It seems like doubling the number of pills gives you more than double the displacement of water.
Before anyone breaks out the beakers, they'll need to start building a full-scale cell, which should be as tough as its tenant.
While normally people go to great lengths to avoid a prison cell, we've actually had to go to great lengths to get up close and cozy with one. These pallets of cinder blocks that I'm sitting on will in fact our prison walls make, and that yellow line behind me describes the extent of our test cell.
Construction begins inside Building 258 at the Naval Shipyard. This way they can't be stalled by bad weather. You can tell they're serious by the forest of rebar they use to anchor the jail to the floor.
If If you know us, you know we like to build everything ourselves, and we've built buildings before on the show, but in this case, since this story is all about the structural integrity of the building, we figured that we need some professional help, so that's why we've got these guys doing this. This building's going to be tough.
In fact, it's far and away the sturdiest shack we've ever built. It's a cozy 10 feet long by 7 feet wide by 6.5 feet high, maximum security cell.
It's got a lot better technique than I do.
That's pretty clear. They're all like throwing it and stuff. I'm kind of impressed.
It is pretty to watch. And hey, these guys are fast.
This professional help thing is pretty good. This morning we had a yellow rectangle on the floor. This afternoon, most of a prison cell.
But the day's only half done for Adam and Jamie. It's back to M5 to find out how much potentially explosive pressure they can hope to wrangle from the humble antacid tablet. Jamie starts with a volumetric test to see how much gas is produced by measuring the water it displaces.
So you release the antacid into here, it expands. That expansion of gas pushes water out of this one into here, and whatever volume we get in here is how much gas was produced by the antacid.
Ain't it great?
I love it. Let's do it.
There's more than enough water to make this work. Jamie pulls the quick-release magnet, and they're off and bubbling.
Look at that. It works.
And they've got a result in seconds.
So it looks like one pill produces about 75 milliliters of gas.
Yeah, about 80.
Well, now my question would be, do 2 pills displace 160 milliliters? Does it scale perfectly linearly?
Double the gas from double the pills would make sense, but science is rarely so simple.
Wow.
The volume of gas produced scoots past the 160 mark and continues to climb.
This one's looking like 275.
To see if the trend continues, the next logical step is to try 4 pills. Double the 2-pill result would be 550 mils of displaced water. And before long, Jamie's wishing he'd brought a bigger beaker.
It's actually going more than...
More than double. It seems like doubling the number of pills gives you more than double the displacement of water.
So this could go exponential, actually.
It's clear there's CO2 aplenty, but the myth depends specifically on the pressure the gas generates. So that's what they'll measure next.
Testing pressure in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, look at that.
They start over with 1 tablet, and again, the results come quickly.
What are we getting there? 1.9? 2 psi?
Yeah, it's about 1.9, just a hair under 2.
Now for a mini moment of truth to see if pressure, like volume, increases exponentially.
All right. 2-tablet pressure test.
If the pressure just doubles, the 2 tabs will fizzle at 4 psi.
Both pills are still going, both tablets are still bubbling. 2 psi is roundly passed, 2.5 psi is on its way. 2.5 psi handily passed by the both tablets, and now rounding up on 3 psi. 3 psi, will we get 3.5 psi? 3.5, anyone for 3.5? Yes, both pills seem to want to go to 3.5 psi on our way to 4. 4 psi, 4 psi. Go, go, yes! Passing 4 psi, the expected linear expansion rate of the 2 tablets, and it seems that their expansion rate is in fact exponential.
In practical terms, that means they might be able to crack the jail cell with relatively few antacid tablets.
Jamie, I'd like you to cast your mind back to your days in the Old West. Okay, supposedly there's a cowboy myth from back then that you could disarm an opponent with your pistol without harming them.
You mean you can shoot a gun out of their hand?
Exactly.
I was wondering when we'd get around to that one.
The time has come.
Back in the Old West, any good guy gunslinger worthy of a sheriff's badge could supposedly disarm the bad guy with a single sharp shooting shot. But is this really possible? And would you really leave him and any bystanders totally unharmed?
Mine may not be so good the next time.
So, cowboy, since you were there, you want to tell us how it worked in the Old West?
Well, there are two parts to this. The first is unarmed and the second is unharmed. Which do you want to start with?
Well, I'm thinking, how much force can you hold on to a gun with? Let's make a plywood cowboy, give him the same amount of holding strength, and take some shots at him.
Easier said than done, but we can give it a shot.
So, first up, Quick Draw Savage sketches a plywood posse. And to give his trio of tangerine bad guys accurate handgun-holding abilities, Jamie knuckles down and gets a grip.
This stuff right here is some of our favorite stuff to have around because it's like hook and loop, but it's actually hermaphroditic. It sticks to itself. Ah, perfect.
Next, the team saddles up and heads on down to the range, the gun range.
It looks great. An orange posse of trouble. We're gonna have to shoot their guns out of their hands. So I'm standing in the Chabot gun range, site of several other Wild West myth adventures by the MythBusters, including Son of a Gun. I think he did it. Gunslingers.
You kidding me?
And What is Bulletproof, both 1 and 2. This time, to answer the question, could this, the primary sidearm of the Old West, be used in a non-violent fashion? I.e., could you use this to shoot one of these out of your opponent's hand and disarm him?
Hey, Adam, come check this out.
What do you got?
This is my human hand grip simulator.
I love it. How do you want to test it?
If you hold on to this gun,
Okay.
and I yank it out of your hand and see what that feels like. All right?
Feel like you got something?
Yeah, I'll have you hold on to this thing just securely, and I'll yank it out of there. And if I feel like they're the same, then we're in business. That's spot on.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's mount it up and shoot at this puppy.
Okay.
The gun is placed in the bad guy's grip simulator as if midway through the draw. And with the help of a sharp-shooting laser, Adam and Jamie take aim, ready to fire.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're gonna start off this myth with an impersonation.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Go for it.
Drive straight. Stay above 50.
How about another one?
There's a bomb on this bus. If you slow down, it'll explode.
All right, well, judging from your quotes, I take it we're testing another speed myth?
Right.
Right. Ever since Adam and Jamie tested whether you can prevent a bus from flipping over by moving all the passengers to one side, everyone has been requesting the bus jump myth.
I know this one. It's where their bus is speeding along and they get on an overpass that's unfinished and there's this huge gap. But somehow they pull off this leap across the gap, make it to the other side, drive away perfectly, and nobody's injured in the process.
Exactly.
You're not going to do this to the whole myth, are you?
Yes, I am.
It's a classic scene from the green screen.
What do you got there? A story about very small things?
Yep. We're talking about millions of tiny organisms that you come into contact with every day, but some of them could have a nasty surprise waiting for you and be really harmful.
I got one that fits that bill. I got a chain letter recently that stated a woman had died from a deadly pathogen she contracted drinking from a soda can tainted with rat urine.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, let's get to it.
Okay.
Wherever there are rats, filth follows. But are soda cans really contaminated by rat pee? And if they are, could drinking directly from the can be deadly?
So how do you want to test this?
Well, you know, this myth is so pervasive, we need to get it right. And that means we need to have a nice, large sample size.
Okay, and I think we should start with a positive pee control so that we know what rat urine looks like, we know how to test for it, we know how to know when it's there.
And we need to just get a whole passel of rats, a bunch of cans, and let nature take its course, huh?
Is passel the collective noun for rats?
I don't know.
Well, actually, it's a horde, swarm, rabble, or pack of rats. But before they get started,
But I don't understand. How is it possible that rat pee could kill you? Yes, it's not rat pee itself. that could kill you. It's the fact that rat pee could potentially carry both leptospirosis and hantavirus that makes it potentially dangerous. I see.
According to this myth, deadly pathogens transfer from rat through rat urine to soda can, and from there to people. So first, they're starting with a positive control.
Now, normally we certify our tasty, tasty MythBusters Cola as both a life-extending elixir and rat pee free. Until today. Today, 1,000 of these puppies are going to be set up as a rat run to be used as what we like to call a control for exposure to rat pee.
Adam and Jamie will hone their rat pee tracking technique before moving on to test real-world soda cans.
So why go to all this trouble to clean the cans just to have rats pee on them? Well, it's because all we want to find is rat pee, not random dirt or other false positives that may be introduced into our test. So we scrub every single one. And I gotta say, looking at 1,000 cans, there's a lot of dirt to be cleaned up.
Now that the cans are pristine, let the rodent incontinence begin.
This little guy right here is Rattus norvegicus, otherwise known as the wharf rat or the sewer rat, the brown rat or the common rat. They're the dominant rat species in the northern hemisphere, and they were held responsible for the Black Plague in the Middle Ages, which killed tens of millions of people. However, technically it was the fleas they carried, not the rats themselves, that caused the plague.
And now it's their urine taking the blame. But is it deadly? The rats aren't shy in helping the guys find out.
Oh, I see some rat urine on a can.
Nice! This is awesome.
This is one of those sounds that you'll only hear on MythBusters. Sound of 40 rats on 1,000 cans.
And after 90 minutes of the pitter-patter of ratty feet,
the rat party is wrapped.
Let's put them back in their cages.
there's certainly rat pee on those cans. And the first tracking technique? Blacklight.
Did you know that rat pee fluoresces under blacklight? Well, that's the next thing we're gonna do. We're gonna get some blacklights and go take a look for them. I feel like I'm one of those police procedural dramas.
And with plenty of glowing puddles.
It's gotta be urine.
Lights up like a pinball machine. Oh, this one is so gross. Look at that.
The boys are positive that the blacklight is the perfect way to pinpoint the pee.
Well, that's gross. I guess it's time to collect our real-world random samples now.
Well, we better get started. We've got 1,000 cans to collect from all over the city.
1,000. Okay, let's do it. Let's say this red ball represents our shooter. Let's say the cue ball here represents the bullet from his gun. The myth is that our shooter can fire a bullet and can bounce off 1, 2, 3 surfaces and come back and kill the shooter.
Well, that'd ruin your day.
I know. Let's test it.
Okay.
The myth takes place in a half-built skyscraper. It's a pin-up parable for poetic justice. One angry shot at just the wrong angle misses the target, ricochets off 3 steel beams, and returns to the shooter in less than a heartbeat.
So how do you want to start this one?
Well, I figure we need to start with some kind of a controlled situation. You know, a bench test.
Well, to my mind, that just means we set up 3 adjustable steel plates, probably in our bunker, fire a gun into them and see if it ricochets off all 3 plates and kills its shooter.
Works for me.
All right. You ready to let all hell break loose in here?
Yep.
From bear bunker to ballistic death trap, the transformation is fast and efficient. Jamie first strips down, then mounts the weapon of choice, a .45 caliber pistol, while Adam takes charge of the Vice Squad.
Nice. That's not going anywhere.
Nor is this test, unless they get everything right in the setup. If the placement of plates and the gun isn't perfect, they'll be here all day.
3 steel plates and 3 vices and 1 .45 caliber pistol, and what we've got here is pretty much the bench test setting up the circumstances of this myth, in which this pistol will release its bullet, firing it into plate number 1, where it will reflect off in theory at least, at a 90-degree angle into plate number 2, doing the same to plate number 3, and hopefully coming all the way back around to where it started, potentially killing its shooter. Now, to make sure that everything's set up nice and jake, I'm going to use some mirrors and a laser.
With the help of predictive technology, they're doing Pythagoras proud. The final angle won't quite make a perfect diamond, but there's method behind this deliberate misdeflection.
Yeah, it brings the path of the bullet back here so that we hopefully don't hit the gun.
Okay.
I don't want to hurt it.
Adam has no such concerns about punching a hole in his partner in crime.
I brought some motivation for our gun. I brought a shooter.
That looked badass.
Yeah. I figured we put him right here, and if there's any meat on the bones of this, he's going to end up with a bullet hole in him.
Okay.
So what we've got set up inside the bunker right now is a really idealized situation. In actuality, I'm not so sure it's going to make it perfectly all the way through. I don't know, I've seen a lot about bullets when they hit metal objects, and I'm expecting some spatter.
And they both seem to think that the spatter will matter.
Bullets aren't lasers, and in fact, the bullet we're using is going to be made out of lead. These plates are made out of steel, and if you put lead against steel, steel wins. In other words, that bullet's going to deform seriously when it hits a steel plate.
Adam puts paper to steel to help mark the points of impact. When he's done, Jamie carefully loads the weapon.
Bunker's hot.
And they're ready to shoot with intent to kill Dirty Jamie.
This is ricocheting bullet. Ideal scenario. And 3, 2, 1. I only see one plate with a mark on it. Second plate doesn't have anything.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
On closer inspection, that turns out to be an understatement.
I can already see what's going on here. Look at the back wall.
Yeah, all right along here. It's spread out almost 4 feet. So much for, like, ding, 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 it just went shotgun.
It looks like the lead bullet shattered, and the high-speed replay confirms their consternation.
Well, that didn't work.
And there's your problem. That bullet came in and it just kind of laid flat right along the plate.
It did. It was so beautiful. It followed the line just perfectly. The fire behind it is gorgeous, and then...
Yeah, there's got to be a bullet that holds together better than that.
Yeah, I think so.
Time to dip into Jamie's private stash.
So what's the story?
Well, I've been thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we were action heroes in our own movie and some bad guys were trying to blow us up, but we managed to escape?
Is that a harp I'm hearing?
Shush, here comes the clip.
It's a climactic cinema cliche. Our heroes are trapped on a boat, and a bomb's about to explode. To escape certain death, they take the plunge. And after a huge kaboom, resurface completely unharmed.
So you're wondering whether diving underwater could help protect you from an injury in the case of an explosion.
Exactly.
Sounds like a blast.
The MythBusters are no strangers to shockwaves, testing if they can cushion a fall,
Wow, here comes the shockwave.
fuse metal, and even make diamonds. But what actually causes one? A shockwave is created when the rapidly expanding gases inside an explosion travel faster than the speed of sound. And it's this shock front that causes a wave of destruction. But can you avoid imminent annihilation by leaping into water? Well, to find out, the MythBusters are hunkering in the bunker for a proof of concept.
So what's this tank all about? Well, Jamie and I wanted to build an experiment that allowed us to see the propagation of a shockwave in water versus air, i.e. in a high impedance fluid as opposed to a low impedance fluid. So, with a little bit of acrylic, a little number 16 acrylic glue, some caulk, and some 1032 button-headed and countersunk screws, I put together this bifurcated tank with a plan to fill this half with water and that half with dry ice fog, or air that we can visualize. We're going to put a firecracker right up here in the center. explode it, and hopefully we'll be able to view that same shockwave in the two different media and see if there's a difference on the high-speed camera.
And for that, Jamie's turned to string theory. These will hang in the water and move if a shockwave hits. With the tanks filled and a firecracker primed, stand by for mayhem in miniature.
Everything's perfect.
Ah, I saw the water move.
Well, let's see how it looked on the high speed.
But a closer look at the high speed reveals not much, actually.
I think we need something bigger than this firecracker.
I think we do. We're going to juice things up a bit. This little firecracker only has a few grains of flash powder in it. If you happen to hold on to this, it'd give you a nasty little burn and make your fingers numb. Officer Smith, I think we need something a little bigger. Can you hook us up?
The M80.
That ought to do it. This thing has a few grams of flash powder in it. If you held on to it, your fingers are going away. It's going to give us enough of a shockwave to do the job.
With shockwaves, apparently, size matters. Cue the M80.
Come on, baby. Wow. That was loud.
And interestingly, I saw the fog move, but not the water.
Well, let's check it out on high speed. I didn't see much. Did you?
I'm seeing the smoke move around. See that divot there?
Remember, they're looking for proof that a shockwave behaves differently in water to air. But the shockwaves aren't showing up on the close-up. So for a bigger boom, it's back to Officer Smith.
The M1000.
Ah, more?
About 100 times more.
Hopefully that should tie up Jamie's loose threads.
Oh, it's getting close. There it comes. Whoa! I think we're going to have seen something.
I think so. Oh, did that blow the door open? There's water on the ceiling. That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
A good sign, but once again the high-speed replay has the same problem. There's no clear shot of the shockwave.
It's reacting, but they seem to be reacting differently somehow.
Well, they're not telling us what we want to see. I think we're going to have to concoct a different test if we're going to learn whether or not there's a difference between a shockwave in the water and a shockwave in the air.
I think you're right. We're done here.
Okay. Next up is an actual prank. Let me start with a question. Have you ever gone to a sleepaway camp?
I was a camp counselor for years.
Okay, did you ever play pranks on the kids in your charge?
Of course. In fact, that was a job requirement.
Ever take a sleeping person's hand and dip it in a bowl of warm water to see if they'd wet themselves?
Actually, no, but I have always wondered about that one.
You're not going to have to wonder much longer because we're going to put it to the test.
Well, all right then.
Aside from our sleeping human guinea pigs, the only piece of equipment the team requires for this test is this moisture-activated voice alarm.
So how is it that these shiny strips of metal are able to detect liquid? Well, when water crosses over two of these strips, it'll allow a minute amount of electrical current to pass through it, and this alarm right here is sensitive enough to detect that and start yelling at me.
Oh my God, what the hell are you doing?
When it does.
Next, the guys need a place to sleep.
Got my jammies. I'm ready to go to work.
And here at the California Sleep Lab, in this bedroom with a view, they've got state-of-the-art monitoring equipment.
This looks comfy. A lovely plastic sheet.
This is a camp prank, a staple of camp pranks the world over for generations, I swear. And it is simply that if you take a sleeping person's hand and place it in a bowl of warm water, that person will involuntarily wet themselves in their bed.
Oh my God, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Now, we researched the heck out of this, and we got tons of anecdotal evidence, but nobody seems to have studied it, and that's where we come in.
All right, so we're gonna start your hookup now?
Okay.
We have come to the California Center for Sleep Disorders, and Jamie and I are each going to take turns being the test subject. One of us will fall asleep in this bed, and when we reach the correct phase of sleep, the other one will sneak in with a bowl of water and see if this is in fact true.
Do I think this is going to work? Well, in my case, not so much. As it happens, I'm a very light sleeper, and my suspicion is that if somebody comes in the middle of the night and tries to mess with my hand, the other one's going to hit him square in the face.
And that is surely the key stumbling block for this myth.
Is he sucking his thumb?
Unless they are absolutely out for the count, getting the sleeper's hand into the water without waking them up will be tough. But that's where clinical director Michael Salemi comes in.
His eyes are closed, but he's definitely not asleep.
With all the electrodes on Jamie's head, what are we looking at there?
These are his eyes right here, and we're looking at eye movements, and this is his EEG. So we're looking at his brainwave patterns here to see if there's any changes that would indicate that he's actually fallen asleep.
Basically, by monitoring the brain's electrical activity, we can tell how deep is Jamie's sleep. Stages 1 and 2 are light transitional stages that won't be ideal for this test. Stage 3, also called slow wave sleep, is the goal. Here, brain activity is significantly reduced and the sleeper is less easily woken. But Jamie's playing hard to get.
He's not sleeping. He's waiting.
And Adam, geared up with night vision goggles, loses patience and goes in.
Oh, you're totally awake. You've had like 2 hours, man.
Sorry. Nice get up.
Thank you. I think your time is up. I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Well, I don't mean to be a party pooper, but no sleep, no results.
So, I was right about Jamie not sleeping. He was waiting, and he waited us out. He waited so long we had to throw him out as a test subject. I've always wanted the cyber hair extensions, and now it's my turn.
As soon as Adam's down, he's out. And finally, things are looking up. Or are they?
Although Adam dropped to sleep really quickly, he may not be a very good candidate for this either, because Adam has sleep apnea, which means that he's struggling for air from time to time and it's waking him up. So he may not be able to get down into that deep sleep that we need him to be at to do this trick.
But before the team runs out of patience, Adam finally descends into stage 3 sleep. However, there's another complication.
Both of his hands are under his head, so I don't know what to do other than try it. If he doesn't wake up, maybe we'll get what we need.
Now from high diving to deep sea diving.
Before the days of scuba diving, divers would go down in those old suits with those brass helmets, just like this, right?
Sure.
They would pressurize their suit using a compressor on a boat at the surface.
To counteract the external water pressure.
Exactly.
Well, that sounds like an accident waiting to happen.
And that's what this myth is about. If that compressor were to stop or the air hose would get cut, that diver would come to a grisly end.
Yeah, without the high pressure air helping to keep the suit inflated, it would simply crush under the weight of all the water.
That's right, and the pressure would change so suddenly, it would be so dramatic that it would literally squish the diver into the helmet.
Sick. I love it.
Yep, according to this macabre maritime myth, early deep-sea diving suits had a flaw, whereby a failure in the air supply could cause a drastic depressurization. But could the pressure differential really put the squeeze on an entire human body? Or is this a load of pulp fiction?
So how do we test this?
Well, ultimately, I think we need to build one of these suits, put a human analog in it, drop it to the bottom of the ocean, cut the line, and see what happens.
See if we get instant sausages.
Or whatever.
Okay, before we do all that, I think we need to do 2 things. We need to go talk to an expert, and we need to do a few proof of concept tests.
And at San Francisco Maritime National Historical Park, ex-Navy diver Mike Ward is just the expert Carrie needs.
What do you think? Have you heard this?
Oh yeah, it's been talked about for many years. Whether or not the whole body would go up there, I don't think so, but I think it'd be pretty dramatic.
So what kind of diving were these suits used for?
They were used for salvage diving, mariculture diving, sea harvesting, construction. They were used for virtually every kind of diving. This was the very first real type of commercial diving suit.
How deep do they go?
Down to 300 feet on average.
300 feet is quite a depth, but as Mike explains how the suit works, there's one feature that's troubling Carrie: the non-return valve.
The valve only allows air to come in one direction. In the event that the hose gets cut, the pressure differential automatically forces the valve shut. doesn't allow anything to go up the umbilical.
You need a dive suit without a non-return valve for this myth to be possible.
I would test it as though the non-return valve wasn't working right. A lot of times divers wouldn't do the maintenance. The valve would get stuck and that would cause the failure.
So, according to our dive master, the particulars of this myth are positively plausible. Which means it's time to get down to business.
As always on MythBusters, we're going to start out in the small scale. Basically, I'm going to make a tiny little diver that we can do some experiments on and find out what kind of effect suction really is going to have and let us design our big experiment.
And as Carrie's voodoo diver takes shape, it's clear who the sacrificial mini-me will be.
The diver is becoming Little Grant.
God. Look, is that Brad Pitt? That's great.
It's so beautiful. I love it. Carrie's sculpture turned out great, and it looks just like Grant. But in order to test the small scale, I need to turn this clay figure into a ballistics gel figure wearing a watertight diving suit. Now, the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna make a plaster mold of the sculpture. Hey, look at that. It's like Han Solo, frozen in carbonite. That way I'll have two halves of a mold that I can paint in latex and cloth. So that way it'll be both watertight and it'll be durable. Once the latex is dry, I'll put the two halves together and then I'll fill the whole thing up with ballistics gel. Once the ballistic gel sets, I'll be able to open up the mold, and what I'll be left with is a mini Grant diver made out of ballistics gel in a watertight diving suit. Look at that. Look, his little suit's there.
It's loose on his body. That's perfect. It'll fill right up there.
All right, now let's see if we can get him out without ripping his head off.
And thanks to Tori's ingenuity, mini diver Imahara emerges perfectly formed inside a watertight diving suit.
It's a little diving Grant.
So creepy. Look at the skull.
So this is gonna be perfect. I gotta do a little bit of repair work on the seams, but we're good to go.